You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGackie, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, you know I appreciate you very, very, very much. I've got an exciting episode for you today. I really enjoyed talking to my dude Thomas. This was a enlightening chat, to say the least. He's had a lot of really cool experiences, and he has some really cool tales to tell. So we'll get into that in just a minute. Before we do that, I just want to give a big, huge, fat thank you to everyone who have been using the tonemob.com/sweetwater links for their gear purchases, as well as the tonemob.com/reverb link, and for your string needs, the tonemob.com/stringjoy, and you can find all those in the show notes. So, yeah, that really, really helps a lot, and if it's stuff you're going to buy anyway, you know, a little bit can come back and help support this programming. So yeah, big shout out to everybody who's been getting involved in that. I really appreciate it. One more thing, I have not asked for this in quite a while, but wherever you're listening to this, if you could throw us a review. If you enjoy this show and you'd like other people to see what you think about it, throwing a review can be extremely helpful, especially on some of the platforms where we don't really have much activity. Pretty much, according to the stats, almost everyone listens via Spotify or Apple, but there are a handful of other services sprinkled in there. So if you could pop up a review on the platform of your choice, that would be extremely helpful. Very, very, very extremely helpful. Let's see, in other news, oh yes, this is going to be fun. So after this episode drops, this is going to drop on Monday, the 19th? Let me check my calendar. Yes, Monday the 19th is when this comes out. And just a few days later, yours truly will be flying over to Kansas City, Missouri. And if you're a pedal nerd, you probably know why I'm doing that. Yes, I am headed to the JHS World Headquarters, and I'm going to be hanging out with Josh and the gang for a live stream on Wednesday. So make sure and just clear your schedule for Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Time and come join myself and Josh Scott and the rest of the JHS crew for a Wednesday live stream. We're going to be giving away some stuff. I am bringing some rare Tone Mob stuff to give away. And yeah, it might be fuzzy stuff. So make sure you're hanging out with me. That'll be a really fun time. Us. It's going to be a good time, and I'm really looking forward to it, and I think you will enjoy it too. Oh yeah, I should probably mention, if you're not familiar, that will be over on the JHS Pedals YouTube channel, which you should definitely already be subscribed to if you like this podcast. Let's see. In other news, I think that's it. Oh yes, I was recently on the 40 Watt podcast, so if you want to hear a little bit more detail about my latest record that you've heard me talk about a whole bunch, you can hear me go into a little more detail on the creation of that and talk about barbecue with my dude Philip, and you can check that out wherever you're listening to this at the 40 Watt podcast. So that is enough of an intro for now. Let's get into this episode with my dude Thomas from Cream Tea Pickups. Let's do it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, once in a while, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Thomas Nilsen of Cream Tea Pickups. What's going on, man?
Well, a lot of stuff, even during these crazy times with the pandemic and everything, but we are getting there.
It's amazing how busy it can be when everything is supposed to be shut down. I mean, it is shut down, but still, we managed to keep ourselves drowning in projects somehow.
But the problem now is getting the raw material. Everyone is struggling now. Guitar manufacturing, pedal makers, and everyone, all even in the tech industry with cars and computers and everything, is the manufacturing of getting raw parts is very, very hard to get now.
It is. It is. A lot of my friends have been talking about just that. And I was a little bit surprised because I expected that problem to hit earlier, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But then when I really got to looking at it and talking with people, it's like, oh no, this is right on schedule, because when everything first locked down, like all those raw material manufacturers, those, chip providers, all that stuff, they stopped making stuff, but we were still buying up inventory from suppliers because the suppliers still had some stuff. And so we bought up all of that, and then the raw material places came back online, but they had to refill all of those suppliers because the suppliers were completely wiped out. And now that's finally trickling down to us, the end users and the manufacturers themselves. It's really crazy.
Yeah, but we are still going strong in the production, and we are still making a lot of stuff. So I think we are actually, during these horrendous times, we are actually managed to get through it in some way. We have solved a lot of problems that we have done. We are taking care of a lot of stuff. We have been ahead of the game very early, and we thought about what would be happening down the road. But I'm so glad when we come to a point where everyone can chill down, relax, and talk about something else regarding not something else about things in life than the pandemic and the COVID. I just hope we can get there at some point, but it's looking good. We're getting there soon.
Yeah, we are. It's trending in the right direction, and at the very least, we're figuring out, how to manage it. In the beginning, it was like, is this the Black Plague? Are we all gonna die? Like, what's going on? There was so much, so many questions, and at the very least, now we have some steps to take that are pretty, obvious and pretty clear. And I think that's helpful for a lot of people's mental state as well. It's like, yes, you can go for a walk by yourself and it'll be fine. Like, don't worry about it. It's not floating around in the trees or whatever. So that's a good thing. So enough of that pandemic talk, like you talked about. That's we don't want to talk about that anymore. You have a lot of cool things to talk about. You've had a vast array of experiences. I can tell just from the short conversation we had before we started recording. But why don't you take us from, square one, when you started picking up guitar and how that led to you scanning the Pearly Gates pickups and all of these other crazy things that you've been able to do. How did you start playing guitar?
Okay, we are talking about doing a long story short here. We are talking about 2 decades in 15 seconds. How shall we do that?
You can do 2 decades in 15 minutes. That's okay. We got time.
Yeah. First of all, in the beginning of the 70s, when I was born, I have a father who still play, but he was a professional guitar player 15 years before I was born. So when I was born, I had all vintage guitars surrounded by me. I had stacks of turntable records, LPs, vinyls back in the days. And my dad, he had a big range of music taste, and he was listening to a lot of different stuff. And so when I started to get a grip around the circumstances around me, and I get a grip and recognize what I'm surrounded by, I grew up with Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green, Son House, Lightning Hopkins, Jimmy Reed, Cream, early CC Top, Moving Sidewalks, and I was actually, when I went into the school when I was a kid, I was listening to this stuff, the T-Birds with Jimmy Vaughan, the early recordings of that, while my schoolmates, they were listening to ABBA and Boney M and all that stuff. And my dad, he subscribed to Guitar Player from the 70s. He worked in the music industry as well, with distribution of musical instruments back in Norway. So I had guitars, and it was music and guitars all around me from when I started to walk, actually. And I remember my dad, he didn't dare to give me a vintage guitar, of course, to a 7-year-old. So I get this crappy Italian electric guitar instead. But that was fine. It was very hard to play, I remember. But then again, I learned it the hard way. And I remember I was starting reading when I was 7 or 8 years old. I was starting to read Guitar Player. I asked my dad about these English words, and I get a grip of it. And I remember when the Blues Brothers movie came out, because my dad had a VHS player, and he taped and recorded all the music documentaries that were airing on Swedish TV. I remember that, and I was watching these documentaries about the blues and the music history in black and white, even before we get a color TV. We didn't get a color TV until 79, I think. We were late. So, and I started to get a grip of the English word and understand the English words and stuff pretty early. And I started reading Guitar Player. Everyone else were looking at children TVs and cartoon when they were home from school. I just dig down in the last issue of Guitar Player and was reading that instead. So from that, it just went along until I quit school. I was old enough to work, and I started to work as a guitar shop in Oslo, doing some guitar repair and stuff. And we had this German guy in the second floor who made some pickups for acoustic instruments, violins and balalaikas and all that stuff. And from that guy, I learned how to make these acoustic pickups for acoustic instruments. And then a couple of years after that, I quit doing that because the pay and the paycheck wasn't that good. And we had this internet boom, the .com bubble, as everyone is talking about, like the pandemic now. And I were doing some educational exchange, and it come to a point where I started a new band in the late 90s. I think it was 2099 or 2001. And I was ordering some custom shop made guitars. And they sounded horrible. It was, what happened? What have happened? So I took out my old guitar luthier tools and in the basement of the house, and I just told myself, to be honest, I love the guitar. The guitar is so nice to play, but the pickups and the sound of the guitar were so horrible. I even plugged it in an old original 1965 Fender Twin, and it didn't sound good even through that one. So that's why I started to take it in my own matter to see if I can make the pickups sound better. So I did that, and actually they sound really great. And one thing is what I'm thinking, but I need some professional opinion if these pickups are good. So I went back to my references with all the Peter Green Cream sound, the Moving Sidewalk, the early CC Top sound with a Pearly Gate, if you know what I mean, all that golden era guitar tone. I just wanted that tone in my guitars as well. So yeah, and just from there, I made some pickups that I think sound great. And I heard a friend of mine told me that CC Top were visiting Oslo for a gig. And I thought that would be a great opportunity to reach out to my friend Elwood Francis. I haven't talked to him that much, but I called the management and asked for Elwood, because I know who Elwood Francis was after all these years. I've been reading Guitar Player when he was guitar tech for Steve Vai back in the 80s and stuff, so I knew about Elwood. So I thought, okay, I know Elwood is the guitar tech for Billy, and these people are the right guys to reach out to get some kind of feedback. So I just jumped on the high saddle and called him and told him I'm just a nobody in the woods of Norway. I think I made some cool sounding pickups. Are you interested to check them out? I need to know if you think they are sounding good enough the same way that I think they sound. And he said, sure, come down, blah, blah, blah. So I brought my Les Paul custom shop where I put my pickups in, and rest is history. It was just mind-blowing. I just went down there for these people to try them out and give me some feedback. I had no intention, and I had no if someone told me that day, hey, you will work with Billy closely for 3 decades after this day, I would tell that guy, are you drunk? I would, if you know what I mean. So, but it went really well. Billy tried the pickups backstage after the gig, and he just turned around and said, hey, man, I want 5 sets of this. These sounds brilliant. I want 5 sets. And then we changed contact info, and the rest is story. We are now, me and Billy have worked together very closely we are entering the 3rd decade now. So, yeah.
And through that, did you have formulas already established? Or was this just really like, I think this is how it should be, and it sounds good to my ear. Let's see what Billy Gibbons thinks. Is that really as simple as it was?
Yeah, it was somehow, because I know regarding how a pickup is made on the electric guitar is a difference between a passive pickup on an electric guitar compared to an acoustic pickup, of course. But I know how the signal travels. It's like speaker cables. It's like how a signal travels through the wire from point A to point B. In general matter, it depends how that signal travels. And if that signal travels in different path or a different way, then you will have some different frequency in the frequency range. So I knew that. And so that's why when I wind my pickups, I had a specific winding pattern to create some tone in my head that sound great, if you know what I mean. So I started with winding pattern, and after Billy won 5 sets, we were talking a lot about, because Billy is very into details. He asked me a lot of stuff. Why do your pickup sound so great? And I told him about the winding pattern, blah, blah. And then he started to think more about it. And so when I started to work that close with Billy, because he's so dedicated to the details in creation and design and the product itself, he's very dedicated to all the details. And I actually told Billy that I don't know if he know that at that time, but when a guy like Billy Gibbons or someone else are going on a world tour, you're playing outside, you're playing indoor, you're playing arena, you're playing in different countries with different temperature, if you know what I mean. You have this different temperature all the time. And I told Billy, are you actually aware that if you're playing in San Antonio in the middle of summer in really hot weather, or if you're playing indoor where you have this lightning spot on your guitar, if the temperature are 5 degrees higher, the pickup will be hotter. The output of the pickup will increase drastically. And if you're in a place where it's a bit cold or chill, the output will decrease increasingly. He didn't know that. And I told him, and I showed him why. I just took my hand around a pickup and I showed him how the reading changes. And he said, hey, Thomas, let's go into this shop and let's buy us some hair dryers and mount it to the guitar so we can blow hot on the pickup so we get the pickups up. So, but this is just an example where we talk about a lot of stuff. And when he introduced me to Keith Richards, when he introduced me to Jeff Beck, he introduced me to all these other artists down the road. This long road with Billy has opened other doors, and he has introduced me to a lot of artists as well, where they have their specification on what kind of tone and sound they're like. And I remember the last one were Lenny Kravitz and Craig Ross that I worked with and I still do. They wanted a specific thing. So I have winding patterns for the pickups I did for Ronnie Wood. I have specific winding pattern for the pickup I did for Keith Richards. I have a specific winding pattern for Steve Miller, Jeff Beck, Lenny Kravitz, Craig Ross, and Billy, etc. So after all these years, I created, I think, about 17 or 1800 different winding patterns.
That's really interesting. I want to go back. I want to talk about that winding pattern, but I want to go back to the temperature on the pickup. So I think pretty much everybody that listens to this show knows that germanium transistors change drastically with temperature. That's pretty common knowledge, I think, these days, as far as like fuzz pedals and stuff. But I would have thought in my brain that it would have been backwards from what you said. You know, I'm just a layperson, so take this with a grain of salt. I would have assumed, like, so in reference to like superconductors, like they usually cool the wire like significantly to make the conductivity more efficient. I think I'm using that word correctly. Whereas you're saying you heat the pickup up and then the output actually increases. Does that have to do with the magnets, or why is that? Or do you know?
It's a combination factor. You have the magnet as well, because you have a magnetic field around the pickup. But I actually tested with some humbucker coils without being assembled with a magnet. You just have the coil itself, the plastic bobbin on the table, and if you heat that up, it actually increase, but it don't increase that much, but it still increase, and that has something to do with the copper wire. It is nothing. It's the copper itself, the material copper that does it.
Okay, that's very interesting. All these things matter. You never, you hear tales about things, and sometimes it sounds like nonsense, but it's interesting that you've done the tests and seen it happen in real time. That's not something, I feel like I'm fairly detail oriented, and that's not something that I've ever thought about. So that's very cool.
Yeah, I talked to people, and they thought it was the whole rig, the amp or some batteries or something in the rig, because when they're playing outdoor, indoor, what's happening with my guitar sound is dropping down, and I have to turn, at one place he turned the amp up 5, if you know what I mean, and when they go to the next place they have to turn it down because it varies so much regarding the temperature change. And I mentioned this for Craig Ross and Lenny Kravitz and all these people afterwards, and and I actually showed them it's enough to take your hand on the top of the pickup, just put your hand on top of the pickup and measure it. It will take you 10 seconds and it will go up about 0.5K.
The more you know, everybody. Look, we're dropping knowledge on this show. It's not always just talking about food and fuzz pedals. We also sometimes provide valuable information as well. So that's cool. That's very cool. So I want to go back to the winding patterns now. As much as you can talk about it, I'm sure some of this is proprietary. You don't just want it out there for everything. But we know there's thousands of turns of wire on a given pickup. So with these patterns, is it generally, you go 5 passes and it's one way and then 5 passes another way? Or does it vary over several hundred passes generally? Is there kind of a set way you do it, or is it different for every single pickup?
It's different for every single pickup. That is why I also have this scanner built, because when I scan the pickups, I record and I scan the whole frequency range from 170 hertz up to 95,000 hertz. And I get the frequency peak of the pickup. Each and every pickup has a different frequency peak. And in that range, when you have the frequency peak, that will give me the frequency range, because you have different number of the value of the decibel per frequency as well, and that is telling me how the signal is flowing through a coil. If you have a coil with 5,400, let's just take an example of a humbucker coil with 5,400 turns. The thing is, I have a different start while I'm doing about 220 turns one way, and then I stop and I have about 62 turns on the left side, for instance, and I have 120 in the middle, and I go to the right and I have probably 62 on that side, and then I go back and forward to fill it and even out the wire, and then I start over, and I will repeat that a couple of times, and then I will change it backwards, and so I do the winding pattern the opposite way like I started with. And so that is just an example of how tidy and detailed the winding pattern is. So after, when you have winded with 1,700 different winding pattern, and you have probably done about 22,000 different pickups with the same wire, with the same magnet and stuff, then you know certain way of doing it. So it's just tidy work, and you just have to learn, spend 3, 4, 5 years to learn how to do these different winding patterns to get that specific tone.
It's very interesting to me that the actual way that it's wound, with given the same materials, the same everything, the actual amount of wire in one spot on the bobbin versus another will change it that much. But I guess it kind of makes sense, because you hear about all these old PAF pickups and things like that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it is, back in the day, they didn't really pay much attention to it. They just they call it scatterwound, I think. They just kind of threw it on there and generally kind of guided it along until it was about done, and then they cut it off and called it a day. Is that accurate?
Yeah. They didn't pay attention, and it's like accidents make great things at some point. It's the same thing here as well, because most of the old winding machines as well, they have this old winding machine at Gibson factory and Fender factory as well. But these old winding machines, they have to calibrate these machines each and every day after use, because the mechanism on the winding machine were not built for this particular use, so they have to calibrate it all the time. And that what happened is they made different pickups with different output. None of the original 59. I've scanned a lot of 59s lately, and there's no 59 PAF original 59 that has the exact same output. None. I've done about 11, 12 now, and none of them are having the same output. It's different all the time.
This is reminding me a lot of the guitar string world, which is something I'm really familiar with. I'm involved with Stringjoy Guitar Strings in Nashville, and Scott's one of my really good friends, and we work very closely together. And that's a question we get a lot is, you're using the same materials on very similar machines. How come yours are different? And it's just like you say, it's the way it's constructed. It's what you choose to use where and when, and how much tension you put on it. And there's so many factors that go into what seems to be a relatively simple process that totally changes the game. And it sounds very similar with strings and pickups, where sure, it's winding wire around another thing, but the way you do that has such a drastic impact that it's all the little details that really make a difference in this stuff. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, and when you put all these factors and all these details in one pile, the summa summarum you get out of that will be different depending on what you mix into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. And that's why people are like, oh man, all of the stuff from back in the day is so much better than anything that's done now. And it's like, I don't know, man. I've played some old Les Pauls that weren't very good, and I've played some that were magical. Not everything from that era isn't just automatically better, because like you said, it varied so much.
Yeah, but like, you have to try the Whisker Bucker, the Billy F. Gibbon Whisker Bucker pickups. I will arrange for a box of Whisker Bucker coming your way really soon. We can take that later, but you have to try these out. But it's like what I told Billy as well, and all these artists that I meet down the road, they are asking me, okay, why are your pickups so different? It's not about that. I'm not doing rocket science again. It's not about inventing the wheel again. It has nothing to do. But my thing is to take what Leo Fender, Seth Lower, Les Paul, what they started, and take that further. Just continue their path, if you know what I mean, to develop and make it. If you know, that is my whole thing. I will take what they started and take it further down the road. It's not about change stuff, but it's just to add more into the mix to make them sound like that.
Mm-hmm. Take the best of what they did and figure out how to replicate it so that more people can experience it.
Yeah, and add something more into the mix as well to keep it grow a bit more as well.
When you said that, I looked over at my old trusty Les Paul, the one that I've had since I first started playing electric guitar, and I've never changed the pickups in it because I kind of liked some aspects about them. They're a little bit snarly. They're a little hotter than what I would normally go for these days. But as soon as you said that, I looked over there and I think it might be time to swap those out. In my brain, I was like, okay, I see the
We will
guitar
make
that
that.
those are going.
Yeah. You will have a new experience, and that is what this is all about. It's like when I met Craig Ross and Lenny Kravitz. Actually, Lenny Kravitz came out to me and she said, "Oh my God, thank you! I love your pickups. They are my Black Les Paul now. I just love them." And I talked to a friend of mine who know Lenny Kravitz as well, and I told him what Lenny told me and Craig Ross told me. And he said, that is weird because they have the best vintage guitars, they have the best rig, they have the best cables, they have if you know what I mean, everything is the vintage, the real deal, and they have the best guitar sound. And and Craig Ross asked me, what are you doing? I haven't heard, he couldn't believe his Les Paul would sound that good, if you know what I mean. And he didn't know how important real good sounding pickups were until he tried my one out. But it's like I really appreciate that kind of feedback, but it's like people have different tastes and stuff, and there's great pickup manufacturing people out there. I know that all my competitors are making great sounding pickups. I'm not here to dislike them or say anything bad about my competitors, and they make their pickups in their way. I have my way of doing it. And if people want to experience new stuff, please try out this stuff. And you will also have experience. It's very hard for me to tell you these pickups will sound great for you. This will sound like this, because people ask me all the time, well, what does your pickup sound like? I can't say anything about it. You have to try them out and see for yourself. That is all about.
That is, I mean, that's the story of everything, right? Because there's some things that work really well for certain players. There are some guitars that I've heard people just make them scream, and I put my hands on it and I'm like, I can't do anything with this. You know, it's just like, it doesn't work for me. And, you know, that's what's so magical about the guitar. I actually had a pedal builder on here. He's a dude out of Nashville. His pedal company is called AWOL Pedals, and he put it really nicely. And I think what he said is really true. The electric guitar is the most expressive instrument outside of the human voice. And I was like, thinking about that for a minute. I'm like, well, there's other stringed instruments that you put your hands on and really, you know, communicate through. But the variety of sounds with the electric guitar is kind of unmatched. Like, you can make it sound like anything, almost. So it's pretty incredible. I don't know. I'm very passionate about the electric guitar. I mean, here we are nerding out about the minutia of pickups for 30 minutes now. So I guess that we're cut from the same cloth in that regard.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that scanner a little bit. How does that work?
Yeah, and this is again credit to my mentor, Billy Gibbons. He has some great ideas, and he has tried everything, the top notch. He can choose from the top shelf of product and pedals, amps, guitars, and whatever. And he has a great ear for great sound as well. So I'm blessed. I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful to this day that he has been part of my life for the last 3 decades now, and pushed some boundaries in my head regarding putting ideas. How about this? How about that? Nobody has done this, and I take his word upon it. Okay, I talk to you in one day. Let me go back to my shop on my shed. I will make it happen. So he is the one who put me into this idea to create this specific machine, because he loved his 1959 Les Paul, known as Pearly guitar. That is a magnificent special guitar for Billy in all these years, and is his cornerstone of the great guitar sound. And he can't bring that guitar on tour. He can use it, of course. So he wanted an option where he want the other guitars that are using live on stage to be able to sound exactly the same as his famous 1959 Les Paul. So he told me, and Elwood told me how they were trying to achieve that replicated sound. And they have managed to work it out for all these years. But I told Billy, how about if I can make this machine and make actually a result where we can scan the whole frequency of the pickups and record and analyze that whole frequency down to exactly the same kind of decibel thing clinically. So, and that's what I did. It took a couple of years with me and another engineer. I was writing down on schematics and all what I had in my head regarding how I suppose this should be working and stuff. And I reached out to an electric engineer friend of mine, and we were spending 2 years thinking, and we come up with this machine, and it actually worked. And I did some tests about it, and this machine is able to scan, like I said previously, the whole frequency range from 170 hertz up to 95,000 hertz. Now we're talking about a frequency range where the human ear can't register. But when I want to do it, I want to do it properly. So what it does is scan that frequency, and it record and give me a specific value of decibel on each and every frequency from 170 hertz up to 95,000 hertz. And that is what it do. So that give me how much bass, how much treble, how much middle, and how much in between. If you're having a bass frequency that is a bit muffled, if you know what I mean, I can read that. I can see how much decibel is in that frequency. In the treble traps, as we call it, if you're having a very high density of treble in the frequency range, how much decibel are laying in that area and stuff. That is what this machine is doing. So that is exactly giving me what I need to know to make 100% exactly sonically sounding pickups, because it record the whole frequency range of that pickup.
So do you like pass a signal through the original and then read the output of it? Is that how it works? Or how does it physically work?
It's now we come to a point of how much I can't tell you about it.
I'm so curious.
Yeah. First of all, it's one big unit where I have a couple of cables connected to the brain, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. But from that unit, I have made a specific scanner, a handheld scanner that you can't buy it anywhere. I have actually made that hand scanner thing. It's a small thing where you don't have to take the pickups out of the guitar. You don't have to unsolder the pickups at all. You just loosen the string, you put that hand thing scanner on top of the pickups and lay it down there, and you hook up 2 cables, and you take one cable from the brain into a computer, and that's how it works.
Oh, cool.
So you don't have to desoldering anything. You don't damage the guitar, nothing. And it's very handy like that. I started the first version of this machine where I made this pocket on the brain itself, on the box, where you have to take the pickup out and put it on the box. And I thought, okay, if you're going to do these expensive historic guitars, no, we don't want to take the pickup out of the guitar. So I modified the whole scanner, and I made myself from scratch a handheld scanner that is connected to the brain and the unit itself. So now we don't have to do that.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So other than the Pearly Gates, what other guitars have you had the opportunity to scan?
The Beast of Bernie Marsden. the famous 1959 Les Paul called the Beast. That was really interesting. So I got myself Beast Collector Choice number 8 for the prototype making, and I invited Bernie up to my house, and he brought the original Beast, and he was standing with his back against me, and I was playing my Collector Choice with a prototype after I scanned them, and his original Beast. I was just swapping back and forward in a matter of seconds, if you know, an A/B test. And when I did a couple of times, I asked him which one was the last one I played, and he said, "Oh, that has to be the original Beast." Nope, that was the Collector Choice number 8 with my prototype after I scanned your pickups. And actually, that is very interesting, because the pickup itself, people are talking about the Birethen plastic, the cover of the 59, if you know what I mean, the material, what kind of magnets and all that stuff. Pull pieces, the slugs, it need to be the correct era, if you know what I mean, what they used back in the factory at that time, especially the plastic and everything. What I use on these prototypes is what the plastic bobbins are made of today, and the base plate is made of today, the cover is made of today, the pole pieces, and the magnets are a special tricky one, because I have chosen specific cross Alnico magnets, that is cross and not linear ones, and they are not 100% charged, and they are degaussed a bit, stuff about 70-71%. But anyway, the material of the pickup itself is the material everyone can buy today. It's not the right material what they use on the PAF in 59, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And he actually said that my Collector Choice with a prototype after I scanned the Beast were the original Beast guitar. And there you go. That was a very good example. That is the winding pattern and how the signal flow through the whole thing. That is 98% of the sounding of the pickup itself. And the last 2% is the magnets.
That's really interesting, because I've interviewed a couple pickup makers, and they've said very similar things. In fact, there's one guy, Porter Pickups. He's out of Idaho here. He's a good guy, and he was kind of expressing a little bit of frustration with customers who don't understand what you were just talking about. And you know, he had a guy call in, and he's like, "Hey, are you using the correct?" I can't remember what species of wood it was, but like, "Are you using the correct pine tree species for your bobbin material?" And he's just like, "That doesn't matter." Like, it doesn't matter. Why? It's weird how we're talking about all these details and how obsessive we get over these things, but there are things at the end of the day that aren't that important. Like,
no, it's more about the look. It's more about the look. It's not about how rounded the cover, the corner of the cover itself. It's not about the plastic or the bobbin. It's all about how the signal flow, because what you hear with your human ear is the signal and the frequency range. That is what the human ear is registering. It's not registered if the pole pieces are 4 centimeters or 3.5 centimeters, if you know what I mean. And actually, I have people coming over to me, "Yeah, I can hear the difference between 3-ply pickguard and 1-ply pickguard." Are you serious? If like I was able to hear, if I was able to hear that difference, oh my God, what else would I hear, if you know what I mean? Walking around in the streets.
Yeah, you might not want to hear all of that. No. You'd go insane. You'd go.
It's me and Jack Nicholson on a hotel all over again.
That's right. So you mentioned before we hopped on the recording that you had a story for me. You had a weird story that you hadn't told anyone else, and you know, I'm here for weird stories. I love weird stories. What's the weird story?
Yeah, here's the thing. First of all, it's very weird because Billy finally invited me over to Texas to scan his 59 Les Paul, known as Pearly Gates. And this were in February last year, just before the pandemic. Actually, the pandemic were on the news regarding China and Wuhan when I was going over to Texas to do this. And I talked to my friend and I said, oh my God, now is the opportunity to go over and do this. Finally, if you know what I mean. And it's such a big deal because Pearly Gate is, and Billy is the cornerstone, is my mentor. Billy and the Pearly Gate and that guitar sound is why I'm here, if you know what I mean. So
Right.
that has been the number one on my bucket list, if you know, to actually be able to work with that guitar seat up front or just being able to scan it. So I was very worried because, of course, you have the volcano thing in Iceland years ago that were damaging one opportunity that I actually had, so I can go to the States and do this. Of course, that was the break deal for me, and I can go over and do it at that time. And now finally, we have a second option here. And now we had reading about this horrible pandemic that is spreading all over Europe and probably this. And I said to my friend, "Oh my God, now we have this. This will be the stopper for me and not being letting me go over." And let's see how it goes. And it was one day before we were going on a flight here in London from Heathrow on over, and yeah, we were good to go. And we were finally getting over to Texas, and I was doing this thing and spent lovely 4 days with Billy in Texas. And Billy said, "Okay, we have 3 days when you are getting home." The week after, I was supposed to be back in the UK. I was supposed to be in the UK on Thursday. And the week after were the rehearsal for the Mick Fleetwood and Friends gig. And Billy wanted me to come down there the week after. So I only had 3-4 days break with Billy before we were doing that. But anyway, so the flight back, we're on Wednesday. We were supposed to go back. And me and my friend who followed me, a couple followed me over to the States and followed me back doing this. I need some help to carry all the gear that I was bringing along as well. So,
Right.
So anyway, we were scanning Pearly Gate, and it was yeah, okay. I can't say these words because it's a public radio thing. So, but anyway, beep regarding the experience of actually see Pearly Gate up front and be able to play it. Billy handed me the Pearly Gate. I played the Pearly Gate, strum it. I was in heaven. I was shaking. I was so nervous, but a big dream come true. Done. On Wednesday, we were going out to the airport to fly back. And we were sitting in the bar there, and I was some nachos and stuff. And we were at the Houston airport. And we were going to the gate. And I told my friend, "Hey, look out there." And we looked at a British Airways plane. And one of the engine's panels were taken off and laying on the ground. And it took about 1 hour. And they said on the speaker, "Yeah, sorry to inform you, but the flight, blah, 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 is delayed for 5 hours. We're having some engine problem. We're trying to fix it. And we have..." And I told my friend, "I'm not sure I want to take that flight back home, to be honest." I'm not sure. And we were sitting there for 7, 8, 9 hours, and we get a new update, and they said, the flight will be cancelled today. We have ordered new parts for the engine that will come. We'll fly down from Dallas, and they will try to fix the engine tomorrow. And I told my friend, "Hey, where are we?" Houston. "Okay, we are in Houston. You have the NASA thing. Houston, we got a problem thing, if you know what I mean." So I told my friend, "Hey, we are in Houston. The rocket science is here." so they should be able to fix it. So anyway, so we went down. We had to go out in the terminal to get our luggage. And we were going to the luggage band where we dropped the luggage, but it was now reversed. Of course, they were supposed to put all the luggage onto the band so we can get that out and go to the buses and go down to Houston downtown and get into another hotel. But anyway, so we went down there. And the first band that we were expecting to get a luggage, everyone went to this circle with a luggage band. Nothing came out. And all of a sudden, that band broke down.
No way.
Yeah. And then we were told after 1 hour standing there, we had to go to another area of the terminal for another band. They were trying to reroute the luggage to another part and get it out there. Okay, so we went over there, standing there for 45 minutes. 2 bags came out, and the thing broke down again.
Now keep in mind, I'm assuming the luggage that you're waiting for doesn't just have your clothes and your stuff on it. It has the information that you just recorded from the Pearly Gates guitar. It has all that.
Yeah. And then after 1 hour, they were trying to get the band rolling, and people were actually walking on the band through the wall, and if you know what I mean, through on the band to the next room inside back there, and try to get the bags through, and they didn't work out. So they were on the radio and talking to people. So they had they had to get this transport. You know, this small truck with a trailer where you have all this luggage in. If you know what I mean, these trailers behind driving into the flight, and so they have to get that, unload everything from the terminal outside on the railway again onto this transportation, the luggage transportation cars with the trailers, and we have to go outside. So they have to drive around and through the gate at the airport and get all the luggage out in the streets, if you know what I mean. So we have to stand outside the terminal in the street to get our luggage and everything. Okay, so when we went to the hotel, we get a new hotel and everything, and there was some trouble with the rooms and stuff. We didn't get a room that we were, so the whole thing were a big mess. But anyway, we get the whole thing. And the next day, Thursday, we were traveling back to the airport, and we came into the same bar, and the guy, the bartender, he saw us again. He thought he has eaten something that he shouldn't, because he was having a big deja vu. Here's the 2 guys. You were supposed to leave yesterday, and you're coming back today. So it was a bit weird, but we told him that we have to the flight were canceled, and I had to go and blah blah. And all of a sudden, we managed after a couple of hours to get on the flight, and we fly back to UK. And I was so tired of the whole thing. I just want to be back home. I want to make these pickups and everything. And there was some trouble, of course, on Heathrow. So we were circling on above Heathrow for 2.5 hours before we could land. And when we landed finally, after this, when we finally landed, and we were supposed to go to the gate, and the plane stopped again. And after 45 minutes, the captain said, the gate that we were supposed to go to has broken down.
What? This is a cursed journey.
Listen, that is the whole thing here. That you're getting the picture. You're getting the picture. So we had to wait another 1 hour until they sorted out a bus to come to the plane where we were standing on the railway, so we could get out and get on that one. Okay, so finally we're getting out of that, and I had to catch a train from London up to Liverpool here. You never know what. That train line were cancelled.
No, what?
Yeah.
What is going on? What is going on?
Yeah, so I had to book a cab, and that probably cost me £600 or something to get a cab to get me out of London up north somewhere. So I had to take another train for somewhere else. And I was in the middle of that journey. My phone broke down.
What? Your phone broke? It just stopped working all of a sudden? Completely
died. The battery, everything. I took it into a shop. So here in UK and Liverpool. So I had to buy myself a new phone because all my photos, I have the pictures, even pictures Billy took of the whole process. He sent that to me on my phone with the airdrop thing. So everything. So I was so stressed. I lost all this important stuff, the documentation and everything on my phone. So I went into this shop and I get myself a new phone, and he were able to transfer the whole thing over. But on Friday, late night Friday, I entered my house. I was just drained, and and Billy texted me and asked if everything were okay. Do I see you next week in London? And I didn't want to tell Billy about this, but I told him when I went back to London to meet him regarding the Mick Fleetwood and friends. But to be honest with you, Blake, there's so much more going on with Pearly. If Pearly made some kind of curse or put some curse on me, I don't. It's very strange to think about. All this stuff broke down. I'm just glad I made it back, if you know what I mean. It was so strange. The whole thing was so. I have never experienced that stuff. I'm not into supernatural thing. I haven't experienced that stuff, but this was so weird. Everything that could broke down, it actually broke down on the trip home.
That is insane. That is one of the worst travel stories that I've ever heard. It's just one thing after another. Everything going wrong, and even down to like the hotel not being ready for you. You know, like come on, please, just give me a break. You'd have been so tired when you got home.
So me and Billy talked about it. Are you sure Pearly did want you to go home? She probably wanted you to be here or something. We were joking about it, but to be honest, it was a horrible thing. But I never, like I told you, I never experienced this before ever. And I've read all about these stories about Billy and Pearly Gates, if you know what I mean. And if I think back to the stories I read in a guitar player in the 70s, in the 80s, and up through all these years, and the interview Billy have done regarding that guitar, I actually start to think there's something more going on with that guitar. That, if you know what I mean, there's something. I can't put my finger on it, but anyway, I made it back and everything went good. But it's unbelievable. It's very hard I have a witness because he was part of the trip. So, and actually, so British Airways is a part of it. I email them about this, and I have it on the email about what happened as well. People won't believe me. So, but anyway, I have documentation on that as well because that was just crazy. But it was worth it, if you know what I mean. It was horrible trip back. I made it back, but if I had to go through all that, I would do it 10 times again just to be with that guitar.
I hear you, man. That's unreal. But I'm glad it all worked out. You got your information. I was really worried that you were going to tell me, like, and then the computer was broken in half and all of that data was gone. Like, I was just like, no, please don't tell me that happened. I knew you eventually got it because obviously you've been building these, but I was like, I was just waiting.
I made 10 packets of USB sticks at the hotel before we packed the luggage and went home.
Nice. That is a good plan. That is a very good plan. USB sticks are cheap.
Yeah, and you never know what's around the next corner as well.
Exactly. Well, man, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. We are nearing the end of the episode, and I have a couple final questions that I ask every guest before we sign off. But before I do that, I like to give the guests an opportunity to put up a billboard. You know, you can say whatever you want to say. If you want to, tell your, first cousin that he's awesome. If you want to plug something, anything you want to do, get it out there in front of a few thousand people. Now's the time to do it before we dive into the final questions.
I just want to tell everyone that I'm thankful for all the positive feedback we get from customers. I will send my big grateful thanks to Elwood Francis, Billy Gibbons, Steve Pryor, Mick Fleetwood, John Mayall, Johnny Lang, Craig Ross, Lenny Kravitz, and to if I forgot any names, I probably have now. There's so many out there, but thank you all for being a part of this joyride. And the joyride is not over yet. We have plenty of years ahead of us, and it will be even more fun to be on this ride as well. Thank you, everyone.
Very nice. Very nice. That's perfect. Okay, this next question is it's turned out to be pretty easy for most people, but I'll be curious to hear what your take on it is. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
That is actually the EQ pedal.
Okay. You're not the first person to say that. The EQ pedal. It's bulletproof. It does the job. It's a good choice. The EQ pedal. Yep. I like it. Very nice. All right. Now, this one gets a little more controversial. This one is where families have split up over this. You know, friendships have been ruined, and I want you to take your time with this. But what is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh, here we go again. Someone like the nuns and someone like the monks. No, that was a bad one. But anyway, favorite pizza.
I know, it's a big one.
The salmon. I make, when I have time, I actually enjoy to make myself my homemade pizza with salmon and with some vegetables on. Smoked salmon is the best one.
I did not see that coming. I think that's the first time I've had that answer, and I can support it. I love smoked salmon. I'm a huge fan.
Try that on a pizza. It's so good.
What all do you put on it? Like, what kind of sauce goes on that?
Tomato sauce is really good. And if you have some tomato sauce with this green, what is the word in English for that one? Basilicum thing. Tomato with basilicum. If you know what that is.
I don't know that one. I'm
basilicum, what is it?
The pesto? Is that the English version? I'm not sure.
Basil.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I definitely know what that is. Yep, that's a staple.
Tomato sauce with some basil, you're good to go.
All right. And you do cheese on it, or you just put the smoked salmon and the tomato sauce and call it a day?
Some jalapeno. No, this mozzarella, if you use this rasp, this rasp thing, if you're taking cheese, you want the small pieces of cheese, the metal thing. Yeah. Yep. If you use that and you just, so some light dust of that mozzarella oast about it. That is, don't take big slices. Don't overdo it. No, you just want a small taste of the mozzarella oast. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, Thomas, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a real treat. Getting all these stories and hearing about your experiences. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Of course. We'll stay in touch. All right, everybody. For Thomas, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right. Thank you for hanging out with me today. That was a lot of fun, don't you think? And there's more. If you would like more conversations with Thomas, and he has a pretty epic Rolling Stones story, you can get that over on Patreon, where for just $5 a month, you can help support this show and also get extra content delivered right to your ears every week. So, yeah, there are so many hours of content over there on the Patreon feed, and it helps me out tremendously. Literally, quite literally, helps keep the lights on. So thank you, everyone who is supporting over there. And if you can't, I understand. Things are kind of weird. Please tell a friend. Tell somebody you know. Share it in a group. Anybody you think might like this show. The downloads are what keeps it going. So thank you so much for everybody that has turned their friends onto it. And thank you for listening. There's going to be some pretty great bonus material coming up that will also be exclusive to the patron folks first. Yes, first. I had to check my calendar real quick. But it might eventually trickle its way to the main feed, much like the episode right before this, which you will definitely want to check out. That is a special one with myself, Mr. Brian Fallon, and Chris Benson. If you haven't already listened to that, do yourself a favor and check it out. It is a lot of fun. It's a little bit of a different format than what I usually do, but man, it's a good time. Okay, that's enough. You've got other shows to listen to. You've got things to do. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.